Hi there, Richard Fontenay here. This podcast explores the question, why are we so afraid of change? Now, before we get into that article, would you mind subscribing to this channel? Thank you in advance. Now, when we are in the process of renewal, it means that we need to take and make some changes. And that could be very scary business. Now, let's unravel this aspect of renewal. One of the realities of life is change, yet many of us are afraid of it. Some can face it and overcome it, while others buckle under it. But in the end, we all experience our level of fear when it comes to change. It's literally why the comfort zone got its name. So, you're not the only person who feels terrified of change. It's the way the human brain is wired. Your brain is responding to a level of uncertainty brought about by the change process. It's telling you to avoid change and discomfort because it's much easier to deal with that than it is to address the unwanted emotions that come with pushing through the change process. Change feels scary, and that's a natural thing. Something much bigger underneath the surface may be holding you back. For some, fear can be paralyzing to the point that it makes any kind of change a level of disaster. Now, the official label for a genuine fear of change is Metathesiophobia. It is the persistent, intense, and persistent fear of change. People with this condition may experience feelings of anxiety, panic, stress, or dread when faced with any kind of change, and may go to great lengths to avoid situations or environments that they believe may bring about change. Now, some people stay in terrible relationships because they are terrified of being alone. Of course, that is not the only reason people remain in negative relationships. It could relate to fear of what might happen if they leave, or maybe a lack of confidence to leave. Whatever the reason, fear is the basis for why people often don't leave a toxic relationship. To anyone looking in from the outside, it would seem obvious that the person in the terrible relationship should end it and move on. But it's not that black and white. There are children involved. There are financial overlaps and maybe financial concerns. And it can be scary to unwrap all of that. And some stay put in a miserable job that has never brought them a day of joy because they are afraid of moving to a new position or too scared to start a new career. Fear holds people back from starting a business, moving into a nonprofit organization, or whatever. Often, they are ready to make a leap to a new career or a business venture, but fear holds them back from making the move. Again, to anyone looking from the outside, it's obvious that the person in the miserable job should find a new position. But there's accrued vacation time to think about, and the long benefits of service, and everything that leaving would change. And that, too, is scary. For all the talk about the grass being greener on the other side, a lot of people are way too scared to find out if it's really true. So why are we afraid of change? Well, your brain finds peace in what is known rather than what is unknown. If you don't know what to expect, your brain will start to fill in the blanks, and it always cooks up the worst case scenario. Fear of failure is often a big part of that. It's easier to sit out than to join in when you don't know how it will eventually turn out. For someone who grew up in a home, for instance, with a negative worldview, holding on to the cynicism throughout their adulthood, could easily engender anxiety and fear about trying new things. It's common for people to hold on to pieces of their upbringing, and a lot of times they're unaware of the root. They just stick to what they know because that is what they've always known. Simply put, they are stuck in the past. They have not learned to unlearn their past so that they can fully live in the present and to go forward without the anxiety and fear that holds them back. Just because you have been afraid to change in the past doesn't mean you have to keep being afraid of change. It requires work to get to that point, and it takes courage to move forward. But you can overcome your fear of change by putting yourself out there in small ways to start. Now, the stages of change start with anticipation, and you begin to embrace the excitement of it all. You now become aware of your fear, but have yet to commit to any kind of change. Next comes really the decision to make, to do something about it, to take some action. And you begin to prepare to make the change, but you're not ready to move on it yet. Finally, you decide to take action, and you actively take steps to work through your fears and your anxieties. And you reach the breakthrough stage, where you accept the change and reward yourself for following through. Finally comes consolidation, where you are working to maintain the change over the long term. However, in working through the change, it may not be so linear, but more of a circuitous route. For instance, just when the change you have worked so hard to make seems to be your norm, regression begins to set in. Everything seems to get worse again, and you are slipping back to your fears. It's at this point that you need to realize that things will get better, and that you have already made huge steps to reach your breakthrough point. Now, you need to take heart and work through your relapse. It's just one more stage, one more event to work through. One other aspect of change relates to your spiritual mindset. Often, people are not at peace with themselves and have difficulty meeting change because they are afraid to look within. The process of personal change is always about looking inward and becoming comfortable with who you are and why you exist. And when you journey through the change process, then don't forget to reflect on the spiritual aspect of your life and how it relates to how you feel about change. In conclusion, get started by breaking it all down into little, easy-to-digest pieces. Set goals so that every change you embrace moves you closer to achieving those goals. If your brain cooks up the worst-case scenario, have a plan to counteract it. And if you need help to work through the change process, don't be afraid to ask for help. Get over that fear too. As always, Continue to become the best version of yourself. Stay safe, take care, and thank you for listening. Oh, and thank you for subscribing to the Fontenay Magazine channel. Talk to you again next time. Bye for now.